Happy Halloween, y'all, and welcome back. Today we're going to be making a diorama inside of this foam pumpkin. I picked it up from Hobby Lobby. It was on sale, so it was like $7, but I'd imagine that if it wasn't on sale, it'd probably be kind of expensive. Anyways, you know, after my small $200 budget on my film, I was trying to save money on the diorama, at least as much as I could, but I wanted to make a Halloween special, so, you know. We spared no expense. Anyways, I carved the front out, so that would be, you know, the front of the diorama, and then I carved the back side out so I could fit my big fat hands into it. And then I carved a little chunk out of the bottom so that I could glue this battery pack onto it, because I knew that, you know, future me would probably want to put some sort of light inside of this, considering that once I put the back panel back on, it'd be really dark. And then I came up with like the bright idea to like put magnets on top of that, and then magnets on the bottom of a board, and then you could just easily pull it in, or you could just easily put it in and then pull it back out if you needed to change the batteries. I don't know why I say you, but I guess if you want to build along, hey, then I'm talking to you. Anyways, so I put all that together, and then I inserted it into the pumpkin. And then I used this expanding foam that I picked up at the hardware store. It's pretty cheap, but I figured I'd spray it on both sides and it'd lock in my battery pack and hold this board down, like, you know, kind of in place. And then I figured, well, I could also use this foam to fill in the center for my terrain and it really help build it up. And I could even form like hills and slopes and stuff with it. So yeah, and you know, it's super satisfying to spray this stuff in just because it's foam coming out of a can. I mean, like, who doesn't want to spray foam out of a can? That's just the best thing in the world. Now I know people use like plaster and, you know, all sorts of other things for terrain, but I really like to use tile mortar. I usually mix it with just like a little bit of Mod Podge and then some agua, and I stir it up and mix it for about 5 to 10 minutes. And the reason I like to use tile mortar is because it's kind of grainy and it gives like a really sticky mud texture once it's dried. And it, you know, you can mix it thick and then do a lot with it, and it's just my preferred method. You do what pleases you, I reckon. But I spread this all over that foam and filled in all the little dimples and gaps and holes with it, and then you just leave it sitting overnight and come in the next day and it's hard. And maybe not use your finger to mix this stuff around. It is known in the state of California to cause cancer, but I'm pretty sure like the air in California causes cancer. So, you know, use your own judgment. I used a mix of black acrylic paint and Mod Podge to seal the mortar inside and all the sides of the pumpkin. And it's kind of funny because whatever type of material this pumpkin's made out of, I don't think it liked the water in my mix, and so it kind of separated. But I actually kind of liked it because it's like looking through like dense foliage or trees or something at night. So I don't know. Instead of trying to cover it, I just left it. Now I knew for a fact that I wanted to make like a creepy weeping tree for this diorama, so I rolled out some of my fine copper wire and I cut off like maybe 50 or 60 strands, about arm's length. It's a little bit of a process and takes some time, but I really like to make trees this way. And then once you start wrapping them all together, as you work up the trunk, you could start wrapping like 4 or 5 of them together and branch those off into bigger branches. Huh, that's funny. and then you just work it out until you have what looks somewhat like a tree. And then once you get that done, and I like to take some Super Sculpey and press it into the wire, and you could start mushing it around, making it look like bark. And then I go in with some clay sculpting tools and start scratching out pieces of bark, and you can hollow holes and stuff. It's a lot of fun, but it is time consuming, but you know, I have nothing better to do, I guess. And then I used some of that same copper wire to build an armature for my scarecrow, and I used a little bit of masking tape to hold the arms onto the torso. And I just started rolling out a couple little noodles to build out the body. Once I had bulked out his body with enough clay, I rolled up a little ball of tinfoil, and then I covered it with some clay. That way I could carve his head into it, and then after I got it out of the oven, I could pull out the clay and I could have a hollow center so I could stick an LED in it and light it up like a jack-o'-lantern. I used a couple thin pieces of Super Sculpey that I cut out with my X-Acto knife to start replicating the overalls. I used a little square chunk to make the pocket at the top of the torso and then bring out some detail, and then I used some long little thin strips to make the straps on the shoulders, hoping that this would all look like overalls at this scale and kind of replicate the costume that I built for the short film at the beginning of this video. I think honestly it turned out okay-ish, considering that I'm a very mediocre sculptor, and most of the time when I'm sculpting I don't really take my time unless somebody's going to be looking at it up close, and 9 times out of 10 I'm the only one looking at this stuff, so you know, it is what it is. Now while all my clay was in the oven baking, I figured now would probably be the best time to start painting and basing this terrain. I knew that I wanted to add flocking, like a little bit of dried grass and stuff, but I didn't have a color or a blend exactly that really was like fall time, so I decided to use my resources that I had on hand and make my own. Now for this blend that I'm calling my fall foliage, I used some coarse like brown turf and then some yellow turf. This stuff's kind of really thick, it's not like your average static grass or whatever. And then I also mixed up static grass before, and so I figured I'd throw that in there too. I put it all in this little canister, and then I shook it up, and it turned out a-okay. I mean, it honestly looks like something maybe your cat would throw up in the corner of the living room. It actually felt kind of gross too, not gonna lie, but I put some Mod Podge on the terrain and started sprinkling it into every little corner that I wanted to, and you know, when it was all said and done, I think it came out alright. Maybe that's what I'm gonna call it, cat puke foliage. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna write that on the bin. Now flocking your terrain is super simple. All you do is just take some Mod Podge and you dab it and rub it on to the terrain where you want to put foliage at, and don't put any Mod Podge where you don't want to put foliage at. It's gonna get all over the place anyways, but the bright side is that where you put it, the Mod Podge, it's all gonna stick, and then after, you know, it's dried for just a few minutes, you can hold it upside down and shake it and the rest comes out. Or you can wait for it to dry and just use like a little vacuum or something, but I don't have one of those. Now the rest of this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to base coat everything in black and then just a bunch of dry brushing, because you know, dry brushing's fun, and who doesn't like to dry brush? I know I do. And I know it's not really all that exciting to go on and talk about how I'm painting this when you can literally see it in front of your eyes, or really for that matter what colors of paint I'm using and the techniques of the brush strokes I'm using. So I'm just going to use this time to kind of implement a little bit of the story, you know, some of the backstory about the scarecrow and the whole reasoning behind making this diorama in the first place. Under the weight of life's burdens, I found myself standing at the threshold of Mama's legacy. Her past left behind a sprawling, solitary 60-acre farm, a place she had called home for decades. I'd lost my job, with my wife expecting a baby. The pressing concern of rent looming ominously threatened to swallow us whole. As the days counted down to our eviction, the solution became clear. Mama's farm. It was a place I had fond memories of in my childhood, pretty much growing up there, a refugee filled with stories of her nurturing the land and raising her own family. It seemed like the only lifeline we had left. We packed what little bit of stuff we had into the truck and set off for the farm. It was honestly a bittersweet journey, colored by the realization that the woman who had meant so much to us was gone. It was difficult not to feel the weight of her absence as I stepped on that old creaky porch. The house was a time capsule, a repository of memories and secrets hidden within its time-worn walls. Each room held a piece of my grandmother's life, from the faded photographs on the mantelpiece to the scent of her cooking still lingering in the kitchen. I could smell those biscuits and gravy like it was just yesterday. The more we explored, the more we realized that Mama's life had been rich and full of joy. In the attic, among dusty, forgotten relics, we stumbled upon an old scroll. It was wrapped in twine, covered in a layer of fine dust, and lay hidden beneath forgotten trinkets. Well, my curiosity piqued. I carefully unraveled the scroll and read its cryptic message, one that would set me on an unexpected path. In fields of gold, where silence cries, the guardian awaits with hollow eyes. To find your way with fear in check, answer this riddle or face the wreck. I'm born of earth, yet touch the sky. In whispered winds, I often lie. With roots below and branches high, who am I as time drifts by? It was a riddle, a puzzling clue left behind by my grandmother. We knew that solving it held the key to something that could change our lives. I wasn't quite sure, but it definitely felt that way. As we pondered the riddle, we realized that the farm had much more to reveal than we ever imagined. But little did we know that hidden deep within the cornfield, a sinister scarecrow watched and lingered, waiting for the unwary to venture into its domain. Our journey had just begun, and the challenges I faced would be far greater than I ever anticipated. Now, just so you're all aware, I completely made all that up. It was just a story that I decided to come up with to give my character a little bit of background and some history. Not just me in the film, but also the Scarecrow too. And I was thinking that I might even be able to play off of this next year and create even more lore and shoot even more footage of the Scarecrow. But we all kind of know how horror sequels go. I think my personal opinion, the only good scary movies is The Conjurings, and everything else, anytime there's like a second one, it's just never that good. And to be honest, like, the reason I had to incorporate a cornfield in it is because when I was a little kid, like way too young, I watched Jeepers Creepers and it scared the daylights out of me. It just was the first thing I ever really remember giving me nightmares. Except that movie that Disney made, Don't Look Under the Bed. That was not a children's film. Why would you ever? Okay, that one gave me nightmares too, I have to say. That one definitely scared the daylights out of me. Like when the old guy comes up and he's like all skin and bones and he got the long fingernails and stuff, and then the best friend turns into one too. The boogeyman. That was just... And then you remember they were all in like an old sandwich or something? I don't know. Everything about that movie kind of creeped me out. I think even today, I have not watched it in like over 20 years, but I'd imagine that it would probably still creep me out today. But yeah, that and Jeepers Creepers definitely gave me nightmares. And I used to never be as scared of the dark. And then, after I watched Jeepers Creepers, I went from leisurely riding my bike back home in the dark to like dead on sprint as fast as I could, because I thought that he was going to come up out of some cornfield and swoop me up into the sky and then like bite my tongue off or pull my eyeballs out to replace his. And yeah, just... my advice to you, if any of y'all are parents, is don't show your kids Jeepers Creepers until they're like at least teenagers, okay? Because it completely ruined me from going outside at night for the longest time. Well, I mean, I still get a little scared of cornfields in the dark every now and then, but it's not because of the second movie, okay? It's not because of Jeepers Creepers 2. It's the first one that got me. Because the setting basically looked like where I'm from, and yeah, there's plenty of old rusty trucks driving around that he could be in, so ugh. Anyways, so yeah, I just really enjoyed this whole process and making this Halloween special. First time for me doing any kind of like holiday special. Really enjoyed it. Just getting out there and filming something live action's been something I've been wanting to do for a while now, and it just felt really good to do it. And there's nothing like, a low B grade horror. And who let these bats in? They're everywhere. Anyways, if you haven't yet, subscribe and hit the little bell thing. That way you can see when I upload another one. And don't forget to leave a like and a comment on this video, and we'll see y'all on the other end of the trail. Oh yeah, and stick around for the glamour shots. You don't want to miss that.